Hello everyone, it's me Clayton. I just finished watching Bright Samurai Soul, which is a animated spin-off of the Bright universe. Now, anyone who's seen the original 2017 Bright probably remembers how much critics despised the film, especially since it came from the director of Suicide Squad and the writer of Victor Frankenstein, and came from Trigger Warning Entertainment. I went over my own thoughts of it years ago, finding its world building nonsensical, finding its allegories ridiculous, and finding that it wasn't even that fun on a cop movie or a fantasy movie level. But this animated film happens to show that the universe of Bright can be put into a story that's interesting, even if it's mostly just a by-the-numbers samurai film that at least has some fun action scenes and some decently animated moments that make it, that even with just those, that it's worlds better than the original film. But let's get to the story, shall we? The story follows a human named Izo, who's a ronin with a troubled past involving a certain master, and Raiden, an orc who has to follow a criminal boss in order to be set free. The two are around during the Meiji Restoration era where they have to help an elf girl named Sonia, who might have powers that certain bad guys want to use for the sake of, getting more power. The Bright universe isn't exactly very good at developing its villains, but this does allow for Raiden and Izo to understand each other, to grow close as comrades, and to work together to make sure Sonia's power doesn't fall into the wrong hands. That's all I'll say about the story. It's pretty by the numbers in a similar buddy cop routine as it was for Will Smith and Joel Edgerton in the original film, only here it's set in the Meiji Restoration era, so it's more a Ronin samurai and a hired assassin. So it still works well enough, and Raiden and Izo are definitely better characters than the original film's cast, even if their personalities are kind of bare bones. Same goes for Sonia. But their backstories and their performances do well enough for the sake of an 80-minute film. And it's pretty simple and straightforward, so you can kind of tell where the story's going to go, but in comparison to the first film, which basically dropped the magic wand subplot in halfway through the film and hastily rushed a climax, this one at least has that set up from the very beginning, so at least the whole film feels centered around that MacGuffin. And it feels like the story is paced and edited well enough to the point where it doesn't feel boring in any respect. In fact, I think one of the main things that don't work about this film are the parts they had to carry over from the original Bright. If you cut the Bright universe out and just made it a different fantasy film, it probably would have ended up even better, actually. Because despite what Netflix thinks, Bright is just not a very interesting universe the way it is right now. And and thankfully this film also doesn't feel like it's about the tired xenophobia tropes of the original film. While the xenophobia surrounding Raiden as an orc in a mostly human world does inform his character, it doesn't feel like the film's obsessed with that sort of thing, and it doesn't feel like it has those horrible pop culture references the original had that don't even make sense in the context of its own universe. Here it at least feels like a story that could be reasonably told here, even if the animation is sort of under-detailed in the backgrounds and a little bit awkwardly motion captured for some of the actions. But it does allow for some cool action scenes, and the style itself at least looks, distinct enough to the point where it does feel unique in a couple of ways. So, in that respect, Bright Samurai Soul definitely isn't going to win any awards, but as a anime spin-off film, it's probably the best thing in the Bright universe so far, though that's not saying very much. That's why it's getting a 6.5 out of 10. See you next time.